All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, call I'm La Eloheinu wa Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Harakak Wadash. I want to give double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who will teach more on the hearty shalom to the elect and to Wadi Yahweh Yahweh Shai for allowing me to do this lesson. All right, fair use, okay? See on the screen right here, copyright disclosure, fair use, okay? All right, so before I get into the reading the scriptures, I want to play this video. This is an old video from February 3rd. All right, but just listen.
Finalized their purchase of their first concentration camp inside of Pennsylvania. It'll be right here in this warehouse just north of a town called Charlottesville, Pennsylvania. Right there. Did you know that there's a town called Charlottesville? It's near the concentration camp. Officially, this is called an ICE detention center. They paid $87 million for this old warehouse. They would have paid $88 million, but they thought it was a little too on the tiny mustache, if you know what I mean. I will call this a concentration camp, and I'll continue to call it a concentration camp because they're going to walk up to people on the street and yell, "Do you have papers? No! Get in the van!" And then they're going to concentrate them right here in a temporary facility that's located between an Amazon distribution center and the Blue Mountain Bargain Barn, right off of I-78. This is approximately 2 hours from the location of where the Constitution was written and the Bill of Rights were finalized. And that's where both of those documents go to die. Right here, 35 minutes north of Reading. But mind you, I did notice, you might have heard me say, that this is the first concentration camp in Pennsylvania, because they're building another one in Schuylkill County, approximately 300 yards away from a daycare. I got all of this information from the Philadelphia Inquirer. You should support local journalism, so that way you'll know when a concentration camp is being built near you. It's official. Yesterday,
All right, so you see here that they are building ICE detention centers, okay? As of right now, these detention centers are being used to hold illegals or people that entered the country without, or that are in the country without proper documentation, okay? And so far as you tribes, okay? You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, okay? That's being hauled off to these Salakia detention centers, okay? My point in doing this lesson is that it is a possibility, okay, that we could be cast into these detention centers, all right, or concentration camps, whatever you want to call them, okay, for being a prophet, teacher, a believer of Yahweh Shai, all right, teaching the word, going out on highways and hedges, causing uproars in the world because of the word, not physically doing anything but teaching, okay? We could be cast into one of these prisons, okay? But don't be afraid of that. The Lord has showed mercy to his prophets while they were in the prisons, okay? And I'm gonna get a few scriptures on that, okay? But I just Google ICE detention center locations, all right? As of early 2026, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement operates over 200 detention centers, primarily in Texas, Louisiana, California, Georgia, and Arizona. And you see where they at. All right. For teaching the word, we could potentially be locked up. And we could potentially be locked up in a federal prison, one of these detention centers, your county jail, you know, your local jail, whatever the case may be. We could be thrown in there, right? And that's okay if that's the case, okay? Because guess what? The Lord's going to be with us. This is Revelation chapter 2. In verse 10, it says, "Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer," because we're going to suffer for teaching this word. Suffering covers the lines of, you know, loss of family members, loss of life, loss of things that you have, okay? But everything you have is going to get burnt up anyway. But let's look at that word suffer right quick. The word suffer is to be affected or have been affected, to feel, have a sensible experience, to undergo, all right? In a bad sense, to suffer sadly, be in a plight Okay, and that's what we're gonna be. We're gonna be in, suffering situations. Okay, just like the men of the Lord were in the past times. Okay, because we're going to ultimately have to be, if that's the will of the Lord, be martyrs for the Lord. And being cast into prison is an example of how you can possibly be a martyr for the Lord. Uh, what I mean by martyr is a witness, and also a martyr goes into somebody that is put to death, and that's a potential happening. Okay, loss of life. Okay, but let's keep going. It says here, Revelation 2:10 again, fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days, but be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. All right? We're going to be tried. Let's look at that word tried. The word for tried is pyrazo.
Strong's G 3985, pyrazo. Pyrazo.
All right, this is definition 2, to try, make trial of, test for the purpose of asserting his quality, or what he thinks, or how he will behave himself. All right. Definition C, to try or test one's faith, virtue, character by enticement to sin. And the way they're going to try to get you to sin in one instance is that MOTB. Okay. And down here it says definition D1. It says of Yahweh to afflict evils upon one in order to prove his character and the steadfastness of his faith. All right, that's what we're going to be going through, right? Gold, the Lord is going to try you as gold in the fire. Let me see if I can grab that right quick. I think this is Revelation 3:18. I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in fire, that thou mayest be rich, and white raiment, that thou mayest be clothed, and the shame of thy nakedness do not appear, and anoint thine eyes with eye salve, that thou mayest see. All right, that's not the one I wanted, but that might be. But the Lord's going to try us like gold in the fire, man. Gold, when it's put to fire, it's melted off all of its impurities, and then those impurities are going to come off of us through the testing that we go through. Okay, and the testing is going to come from us being put in prison. Okay, for an example. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna read through some of these. All right, this is Genesis chapter 39 and 20. And so the back end of the story is Joseph. He was set up by the Pharaoh's wife and got cast into prison. Okay, so it says here, and Joseph's master took him and put him in the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in prison. But Yahweh was with Joseph and shewed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And that's what's going to happen to you. You're going to get favor, man. You've been working for the Lord. You've been believing. You've been showing. You've been sacrificing for Yahweh Shema Shai. All right, you've been doing the right thing to the best of your ability. All right, which the Lord allows you to do or don't do. All right, the Lord's going to show mercy unto you, man. All right. It says here, and the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison, and whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it, meaning that Joseph was in charge of the prisoners. The keeper of the prison looked not at anything that was under his hand, because Yahweh was with him, and that which he did, Yahweh made it prosper. All right, the Lord could throw you in prison and you could be speaking the truth to somebody that's of the elect. that's of the elect, and that could be the reason why you cast into prison. All right. Let's see. All right, so the Lord showed favor to Joseph in the prison. The Lord could do that for you as well. All right, let's go to Jeremiah. This is Jeremiah chapter 38. All right, this is Jeremiah 38. Let me actually go there. In 6, it says, they then took they Jeremiah and cast him in the dungeon of Malchiah, the son of Himelech, that was in the court of the prison, and they let Jeremiah down with cords in the dungeon. There was no water but mire, so Jeremiah sank in the mire. And now when Abimelech, the Ethiopian of the eunuchs, which was in the king's house, heard that they put Jeremiah in the dungeon, the king sitting in the gate of Benjamin, Abimelech went forth out of the king's house and spake to the king, saying, My lord, the king, these men have done evil in all that they have done to Jeremiah the prophet, whom they have cast in the dungeon, and he is like to die for hunger in the place where he is. For there is no bread in the city. For there is no more bread in the city. Right? This could be another instance where you get put into prison, whether it be a ICE detention center, or a concentration camp, whatever you want to call it, right? Or state, or federal, or local, or county prison, where somebody could be looking out for you, right? It says, Then the king commanded Abimelech the Ethiopian, saying, Take from hence 30 men with thee, and take up Jeremiah the prophet out of the dungeon before he die. So Abimelech took the men with him and went into the house of the king under the treasury, and took thence old clots and old rags, and let them down by cords in the dungeon to Jeremiah. And Abimelech the Ethiopian said unto Jeremiah, Put these old clots and rags under thine arm holds under the cords. And Jeremiah did so. So they drew up Jeremiah with cords and took him out of the dungeon, and Jeremiah remained in the court of the prison. All right, so there you go. You got the Lord looking out, taking you up out of the prison, all right, or sending somebody to look out for you, all right? So what happens when you work for the Lord, man? The Lord's in control of everything, all right? Don't forget that. All right, let's see. I'm going to go read in the book of Acts. This is the book of Acts chapter, go here, Acts 16. All right, this is Acts 16 and 18. Acts 16 and 17. For the same followed Paul and us, and cried, These men are the servants of the Most High Power, which shew unto us the way of salvation. And that's what we out there doing, showing our people the way of salvation. All right, it's through Yahushua, not Jesus Christ. Anyway, and this did she many days. But Paul, being grieved, turned and said to the Spirit, I command thee in the name of Yahushua Mashiach to come out of her. And he came out of her the same hour. And when her master saw that the hope of their gains was gone, they caught Paul and Silas and drew them into the marketplace unto the rulers, and brought them to the magistrates, saying, These men, being Jews, do exceedingly trouble our city. There you go, right? An instance where they're in straits. You're going to be in straits, and you could be in a situation where somebody's blaming you falsely, all right? And teach customs which are not lawful for us to receive, to observe, being Romans. And the multitude rose up against them, and the magistrates rent off their clothes and commanded to beat them. And when they had laid stripes upon them, they cast them into prison, charging a jailer to keep them safely. There you go, another instance of getting put into prison for teaching the word of the Lord. This is what can potentially happen to you, okay? It says, who having received such a charge, thrust them in the inner prison and their feet fast in the stocks. And at midnight, Paul and Silas prayed and sang praises unto Yahweh, and the prisoners heard them. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, so the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were opened, and everyone's bands were loosed. And the keeper of the prison, awakened out of his sleep, and seeing the prison doors open, he drew his sword and would have killed himself, supposing the prisoners had been fled. Now you see the miracle that happened, right? All the prison doors was open, right? They prayed, they suffered for the Lord, they prayed, and the Lord looked out. Right here. All right. So Paul cried, verse 28. But Paul cried with a loud voice, saying, do thyself no harm, for we are all here. Then he called for a light and sprang in and came trembling and fell before Paul and Silas and brought them out and said, sirs, what must I do to be saved? And they said, believe on Yahweh Mashiach, and thou shalt be saved and thy house. All right. So here you go. Another miracle of being cast into prison. There are miracles going to happen to you and for you when you go through adversity for the Lord, when you pray to Yahweh Shai, when the Lord will have favor on you, and he'll show you that favor through other men, as we saw with the example of Jeremiah and Joseph, and we saw through Paul and Silas what prayer would do, okay? Even if you read about the Apostle Peter, when he got thrown in jail, the individual people were praying from it, and the Lord led him out throughout the prison with an angel, okay? So Revelations 2 and 10 tells us, we may be cast into prison. Some of us may be cast into prison for this truth, but the Lord's going to be with you, man. And these are just examples, okay? This is Romans chapter, I think it's 15. All right, for our learning. I can't remember where it is. Yeah, this is Romans 15:4. For whatsoever things are written aforetime are written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. We get patience and comfort through the Rakah HaKodash, all right, through Yahweh Shai, through the Heavenly Father, based on the Salakia, based on what the Lord needs and wants for us to have. We get it through the scriptures, and what we read from our past lives, or from our ancestors, the things that they went through, just like the miracles and the favors that our ancestors had received in the prison, they can give you hope that you're going to receive the same thing, hope to have faith that you're going to receive the same thing, okay? Because it's possible. But nonetheless, Lord will be edifying to the next time. Shalom.